Pitching is a key to success in any points and head-to-head league, and that's why today we've got some widely available two-start pitchers for you and a couple of streamers to help propel you to victory next week.
It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You are tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here with me today. And like I just said, we've got some two-start pitchers for you, which has grown to be a Thursday tradition. And, you know, the pickings were really kind of slim. I mean, there's a lot of two-start pitchers next week, but just any of quality that are available is not so great.
There's total of what I think 36 on our rankings. You can find those at stonedonsportspodcast.com. I just put the link in the chat there real fast. It was kind of difficult identifying some guys to give you guys a leg up, but I think we did a pretty good job. There's not many. We got 6 2-starts and a couple streamers, so we got 8 total guys. What's up, Loud Boy, in the chat? Happy Independence Day to you, 4th of July. All right, we'll get her started. First one we got today is a Mets pitcher, Jose Quintana. He's just 18% rostered on Yahoo. And this lefty veteran he's got to start 2 home starts versus the Nationals and the Rockies. This lefty veteran had a start today, in fact, on 4th of July versus the National. Oh, my God, he pitched so well. What a wasted effort. No decision, 7 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned, 3 walks, just 1 K. Still got you a quality start. It's his 6th quality start on the season. Like I said, wasted effort. They probably would have got the win had the Mets scored anything. They lost 1-0, but he did bring his ERA down to 4.22 on the season. Over his past 3 starts before today, Quintana had an ERA of 1.65 in 16 1/3 innings with 21 strikeouts. On the season, strikeout rate is not as good as 18.1. That is below average, and his walk rate 8.2. Just slightly below average as well. Quintana does not follow Newton's 3rd law of motion at all. He has a low, very velocity pitch mix, but still gets smashed pretty damn hard. Hard hit rate is in the bottom 13%, and it's worsened by almost 12 frickin' percent from last season. Not good. We'll give you the good and bad all the time with these guys, in our deep dive. Barrels and exit velo allowed are both below average too. Swing and miss game is mostly non-existent. Whiff and chase rates are not great. Does pretty well getting whiffs on his changeups to right-handed batters, and to left-handed batters he actually throws a slurve, not very much, less than 10% of the time, but pretty effective versus left-handed hitters. They both have whiff rates of 29% or better. I believe he saved a bit there by a better than average ground ball rate of 45.2 with a sinker heavy approach. Keeps the fastball, the fly ball and line drives to a minimum. He has performed better after making a couple of in-season adjustments. He has started to lean more on his secondary pitches, like his curveball, and has really started challenging batters inside more frequently. I mentioned against the Nationals, so he's got a rematch next week against them. The Nationals in the last 15 days, not great. 20th in OPS, middle of the pack in batting average. They're pretty decent in walks and strikeouts, but they are 28th in the league on the season with an OPS versus left-handed pitchers. Quintana's a lefty. It's a great matchup. Versus Colorado, last 15 days for them, 3rd most strikeouts, 15th in walks, 28th in OPS, and just 24th overall in runs. I think he'll at least get you 1 quality start out of this. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs since May 10th. That was 10 outings ago. I think he's a great option next week. Set to be a free agent after this season. He could be a candidate to get dealt there. If the Mets pitching staff gets healthy, they got about 8 total starters, so they got a little bit of starter depth there. I wouldn't be surprised seeing him on another team after the break.
It's quite possible.
All right, next up. This is Matt's guy, but I researched him a little bit. Pretty nice stuff, really. So this Brewers pitcher just had his best start of the season yesterday at Colorado, of all places, and since June 15th has been the number 18th number 18th fantasy pitcher in fantasy points leagues. Matt, how can managers win next week by picking up Colin Rea?
If you'd have asked me several weeks ago if that would be a path to victory, I would have said that you were full of it. But here we are. He's got 2 home starts against the Pirates and the aforementioned Washington Nationals. Pirates have been a bottom 10 offense across the board with very little power over the past couple of weeks. They don't really strike out or walk much. And again, Nationals have been a bit better. At least they're scoring some runs, but they don't really hit for much power. And they're a bottom half team in their team triple slash stats. That outing yesterday, 7 shutout innings against Colorado with 4 strikeouts and no walks. And let's go back a little bit further than June 18th. Let's go to May 25th. Since then, he's 5-0 with a 2.56 ERA. Now, the FIP and XFIP are a couple runs higher. There's some luck in there. He's got a whip under 1, struck out 31, walked just 11. He's given up 6 home runs, and that's across 45 and 2/3 innings pitched, making him the number 34 starting pitcher in that span. And we can see right away that this dude is not a big strikeout pitcher, just a 16.8% rate on the season, a little bit higher over the past month, though. And he's only clocking in at 6.3 strikeouts per 9. That is not great.
No.
His swinging strike rate is a tiny 7.4%, and that's actually down 3 points from last season's 10.2 mark. His whiff rate is an equally bad 18%, which puts him in the bottom 5% of the league. Chase rate, slightly better, but still not good. 24.2%. That puts him in the bottom 15% of the league. The good news is, though, he's got a really solid 7.1% walk rate, and he's well under 3 walks per 9, which is where we want to be. And if you said he profiles like a guy that pitches to contact, you'd be right. And he benefits from having one of the league's best defenses behind him. His overall contact rate comes in at 84.1%, which is the second highest among qualified starters.
Wow.
Zone contact is also high at 88.8%, but hitters are really selective about what pitches they swing at against him in the zone. His zone swing rate is actually a couple points below average. He also works in the zone a lot. His 45.4% zone rate is the 13th highest in the game. And the quality of his contact that's coming out is not promising. Barrel rate and exit velocity are both in the bottom quarter, hard hit rates in the bottom third. In the batted ball data, dude gets his fair share of ground balls. He gives up more fly balls than average, and he does a decent job of limiting line drives. Considering who the 2 opponents are next week, I guess I'd say I'm not concerned about either start, but if there was one I'd be a little bit leery of, it's Washington, just because they put the ball in play so much, and they've got a lot of dudes on that team that create some havoc on the base paths. But we're talking about a guy who's just 31% owned. I don't really know what more you could expect from somebody like that. I do think he is a pretty solid option next week, though.
Did I see you pick him up in a league?
You sure did.
I thought I did.
Home league.
There you go.
Loud Boy got him in Yahoo. His ass must have been up early.
Yep.
So we talked about the pitcher with the second highest contact rate in the league. And now we're going to talk about the guy with the highest rate in the league. What can we expect from Miles Mikolas, and how can he help us out next week with his 2 starts?
Oh, God. I do like the starts. Nationals, in the last 15 days, they've been 20th in OPS, middle of the pack in batting average. They're still pretty decent with walks and strikeouts. They get on base still. The Cubs, though, they are even worse in the last 15 days. 28th in runs and RBIs, 27th in home runs, 26th in OPS. They're still walking plenty, but they have now took, as of this afternoon, they overtook Seattle with the most strikeouts in the last couple of weeks. So some nice matchups for Mikolas next week. His last start in a no decision was yesterday versus the Pirates. Gave up 2 runs on 5 hits over 6 innings. He did strike out 4 without walking a batter. It was kind of a vintage performance from him, a nice strong rebound because he had a game against the Reds his last time out where he gave up 9 earned runs, and he looked a lot better too. Honestly, the velocity of his four-seamer was up a tick. It was about a half mile per hour more than his yearly average, and he got his 10th quality start out of 18 total starts this season. I really, really like that. Over his last 10 starts, he's got a respectable ERA of 4.30. The whip's nice at 104 with 40 strikeouts and 11 walks through 58 and 2/3. Since June 1st, he is the fantasy starting pitcher number 67, right between Jack Flaherty and Jared Jones. On the season, his ERA is 5.19. It's high. It's been affected with some bad luck with his FIP and XFIP over a run less, and don't that aforementioned 9 earned runs he gave up versus the Reds certainly didn't frickin' help either. He's got a league average BABIP of 290. It's a little above now. He's at 297, and whip on the year is 122. So he's never been a strikeout machine, and that continues this year, right, with just a 17.8 rate. He has topped out at 6 Ks in a game just twice this season. But true to form, he still keeps the free passes very low at 4.3. It's about half of what MLB average is. Since May 31st, in 41 and 2/3 innings pitch, he's issued just 5 walks total. Similar to Jose Quintana, Mikolas doesn't have much in the high velocity department, and he gets hit pretty hard. Average exit velocity and hard hit rate are both under league average. One thing that was interesting. So StatCast classifies a batted ball into 6 categories. We've talked about it, but it's been some months now, based on exit velocity and launch angle. So you have barrels, solid contact, flares, and burners. Topped, under, and weak is the 6th one. Mikolas has kept the barrel balls to a minimum with a 7.1 rate. However, his solid rate is almost 4% higher than the major league average. A solid contact is a ball that is hit in the air with a decent likelihood of being an extra base hit, but does not quite reach the requirements of a barreled ball. So, like I mentioned before, we always give you the full picture, the good and the bad. Swing and miss game for Mikolas, it's freaking terrible. Okay. He has the lowest whiff rate among all qualified pitchers in Major League Baseball, which is 16.1%. Yesterday, he did finish the day with only 6 whiffs, but he still managed a called strike plus whiff rate of 30%, with his slider doing much of the heavy lifting. I like the nice 2 matchups. The way he threw on Wednesday, I think he's a great option. I've said it before. You could certainly do worse.
All right. We got
guys.
Steve here in the chat.
Sweet.
Pumping some gas at Quick Fill. Got some barbecue ham, corn on the cob, Mickey D's, and some green as tips today. That sounds like a good day, dude. How about Andrew Abbott? You're in luck, Steve. We're going to be talking about him here in just about 5 minutes. So stay tuned, and thanks for stopping by, brother. Happy
Absolutely.
Independence Day.
Yeah, 2 pitchers. We got Mitchell Parker next, and then Andrew Abbott. So yeah. I sneaked it. Okay, Matt's turn. This Nationals rookie pitcher is number 23 in fantasy since June 15th and has the 16th best walk rate among all pitchers with at least 80 innings pitched. What a surprise Mitchell Parker has been this year so far, eh, Matt?
Absolutely, he has. He's surpassed pretty much anybody's expectations. He's got starts at home against St. Louis and then at Milwaukee. Milwaukee offense is doing well as it has all season, though they don't hit a whole lot of home runs. The Cardinals have been mid-pack and runs, but with very little power. They don't walk much, but they do strike out quite a bit, which is nice. And like you said, this rookie's doing better than anyone has expected. And I think you could even extend that to the entire Washington Nationals pitching staff. They got a lot of young dudes there who are showing up this year. That team is going to be a menace here in the coming seasons. But for Parker, in 15 games started, he's 5-4, got an ERA of 3.61. His expected ERA, his FIP and XFIP are all about half a run higher. So it's, he's pretty damn close. He's got a 110 whip, struck out 68, walked just 18, He has allowed 11 home runs, and that's across 84 and 2/3. And the one thing I like immediately, and you kind of touched on this, is dude does not beat himself. That 5.2% walk rate is outstanding. He's walking under 2 per 9. Absolutely love that. His strikeout numbers aren't huge. He's sitting around a 20% rate, fanning about 7.25 per 9. His swinging strike rate is also just a tick below average at 10.1%, and he's got a bottom third whiff rate at 22.3. However, in the minors, he had really good strikeout numbers, so I expect those to increase along with his 71.2% strand rate. He's also been pretty efficient, throwing strikes 68% of the time. That's helped him work deeper into games. He's gone 5 or more innings in 13 of his 15 starts, and he's gone 6 or more in 7 of those 15. Innings are key. If you're out there pitching, you can get me some Ks, get me some good stats. He gives up a good amount of contact, about 3 points more than average, and his zone contact is kind of high at 88.8%, according to Sports Info Solutions, which is the exact same as Colin Rea, only he doesn't have the benefit of that awesome defense behind him. He can fool hitters, though. He's got a 30.2% chase rate. That puts him in the top third of the league. You'll take that all day long. And batters are much more aggressive against Parker. They swing at 69. Nice. Percent of the pitches in the zone. MLB average is just 65.8. But the quality of contact, not amazing. Bottom 30% in exit velocity and barrel rate, while his hard hit rate is a little bit better. It's still in the bottom half of the league. This dude is more of a fly ball pitcher with a fly ball rate just under 40%. Ground ball rate's a little over 41, and he does a solid job of limiting the line drives. He does get pulled quite a bit, so there is some home run volatility there with him, which we saw yesterday against the Mets. He got touched up for 5 runs, including 3 home runs, but he still went 6 innings. Obviously, I like the St. Louis start better than the Milwaukee start, but on the whole, he's pitched well against some of the better offenses in the league. He's only allowed more than 3 earned runs in just 2 of his 15 starts. Considering this dude, what's he owned in? 34% of leagues. That should definitely be higher. I think if you're leery about running him out there against Milwaukee, I get it. The St. Louis start, though, absolutely run him out there for that. And, I'll take my chances with him against Milwaukee. He's pitched well enough, and he's earned some confidence and a little bit of trust. And let's see what this kid can do.
Excellent.
So this Reds hurler, who we just talked about a second ago, hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in a start since May 28th, and he's worked 5 or more innings pitched in every start since. Can Andrew Abbott be a key contributor to a victory next week?
Yep. All right. Here you go, Steve. This is going to be it's probably the longest research I did for a player this week. So it might be a bit windy, but he's been pretty good. He is a lefty. He's been pretty good in the last month. Since the first, he is starting pitcher number 30 in Yahoo standard scoring. And I really don't think you could find any better matchups versus Colorado and the Marlins. Colorado, we just talked about in Quintana segment, but if you missed it, Rockies last 15 days, 3rd most strikeouts, 15th in walks, 28th in OPS, and 24th in runs. And the Miami starts the icing on the cake here. Last 15 days, they're last in OPS. It's terrible at just 570. They're last in runs scored, last in home runs, second to last in RBIs, last in walks, and top 5 in strikeouts. And to top it off, the Marlins are last in OPS on the season versus left-handed pitchers. It's a great matchup. In his last 11 starts, he's allowed more than 3 earned runs just once, while lasting at least 5 innings pitched in all 11 starts, and lasting 6 frames in 5 of those 11 starts. He's 8-6 on the season, just under 100 innings pitched. The ERA is nice at 3.28, and the WHIP's pretty decent too at 1.20. FIP and his xFIP are higher than his ERA by a run and a half, so suggests some possible regression there and some good luck as well. So what's that mean exactly? The things he can control there for FIP: strikeouts, walks, hit by pitches, and home runs. he's, not necessarily too good at. So let's go through them. Strikeouts, he's just 18.5%. That's below average. Walk rate is at 9%, also below average. Hit batters, he's only hit just one, so that's not affecting him too bad there. But guess who's got a problem with the fucking long ball? Okay, he's allowed 16 so far. He's got a 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That's the 7th highest among 71 qualified pitchers. And yep, you guessed it. His fly ball rate is atrocious. It's over 10% worse than league average. And to top it off, his launch angle, care to take a guess, Matt?
11.
21.5 degrees launch angle. It's almost 10 degrees higher than league average. So his ground ball rate must be bad too, right? Sure is. It's just 34%. Very bad. Bottom 11% in the league. And when we last talked about Abbott when I at least did, I don't know if Matt has since then, but in May, we touched on his strand rate at the time. It was 85.8. Looking at it today, it's virtually the same at 85.5. Usually that's not sustainable whatsoever, with a league average coming around 72%. So when a pitcher like him right now is stranding runners at a higher rate than expected, usually the pitcher comes back down to earth. So we'll see. One reason he's been really successful at it, batting average on balls and plays, otherwise known as BABIP. League average on the year is 287 now, according to Fangraphs. He's over 50 points lower. So he's getting lucky. Balls are being hit right at defenders. So that's nice. But a pitcher can contribute some skill that can play a role in BABIP. As some pitchers are great at generating weak contact. This is Andrew Abbott to a T, or a bunch of T's, 2 T's. XFL velo is above average at just 87.7, among the top 5th best pitchers in the league. Hard hit rate is super, super low at just 31%, places him in the top 8% best pitchers. He is a great ad, Steve, for next week. I fully endorse it.
Yeah, and that strand rate, just kind of thinking about that, Steve brought up a good point in the chat that, even though he's given up all those home runs, they must be some solo shots.
Yeah.
Because 3-run homers will kill your strand rate faster than anything. And it's also kind of funny, just given his strikeout numbers, how he's there. I mean, it's I don't know, magic and smoke and mirrors.
Hey, yeah. Heck yeah. He says, after next week, 3.28 ERA, I'll take a shot. You guys did your homework. We appreciate it, man. We're always here for you guys. If you haven't, I don't know, or I'm not sure, but give us a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Share us on the socials, all that good stuff.
We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 Eastern.
All right. One more 2-start pitcher, and then we'll get into some streamers. This Giants pitcher is winless in his last 8 outings. However, he has the 15th best ground ball rate among all qualified pitchers. Matt, with 2 starts at home next week, how can Jordan Hicks be helpful?
Well, here's the thing, like the first thing, and you said it right there. The key is he's at home out there in San Francisco, and those starts are against Toronto and Minnesota. And if you look at the data over on MLB.com as to how those teams are doing over the last 15 days, they're both just on fire. But if you change that selection to the last 7 days, you see they're starting to cool off. He's been a top 60 starting pitcher this season. Across 18 starts, he's 4-5, got an ERA of about 3.5. Expected ERA is about a run higher. His FIP and xFIP about half a run. He's got a whip just over 1.3, struck out 82, walked 35, given up 9 home runs in 90 2/3 innings pitched. And the big knock on him is that he just doesn't work deep into games. He's gone 5 innings pitched 14 times, which is fine because that's what you need to qualify for the win, but just 3 games of 6 or more innings pitched. And part of that is because of how inefficient he is. He's throwing strikes just 61% of the time. We want to be around 67%, or, about a 2-to-1 ratio. And you also want to remember, too, he's been a reliever up until this season. So I imagine part of him getting pulled earlier in the game is also due to them just trying to manage his workload this year, because San Francisco, coming into the season, thought they were, they had a shot to contend for a wild card. His strikeout numbers aren't bad. He's pretty much an average pitcher when it comes to that, with a strikeout rate a little over 21% and a K per nine a little over 8. Maybe he's a little better than average. The swinging strike rate is a little above average at 10.9%, and his whiff rate's in the same boat at 25.3. Walks are a different story, though. This dude is issuing free passes 90. Damn, he wouldn't last in the majors long. It was
No.
90. 9% of the time with a 3.5 walks per 9. He's also walked more than 2 batters in 6 of his starts. So it is something to be aware of. Anytime you're issuing free passes and putting ducks on the pond, you're apt to beat yourself. Looking at his contact metrics, he's allowing less contact than the average pitcher at 75.6%. And his zone contact rate is pretty much average at 85.5. I think MLB average is like 85.2. There are some quality of contact struggles with him, but again, he has the benefit of that home ballpark. The exit velocity, barrel rate, and hard hit rates are all in the bottom quarter of the league. But you talked about it during the lead in. The batted ball data is where this dude shines. That 50.4% ground ball rate, excellent.
Yeah.
And he's holding lower than average fly ball and line drive rates. So even though he gets pulled quite a bit, a lot of times they're just balls pulled on the ground. Have at it. Take that grounder to shortstop. It's a long throw, but fire their ass out. If these teams were still hitting the way they were a couple of weeks ago, I would be more hesitant to run him out there. And also, if these starts were on the road, I would have a little bit more hesitation. Sure. But dude's owned in about half of leagues. So, there's a coin flips chance he's available to you. Just given the circumstance, I think he's definitely a viable ad. Pick his ass up, run him out there next week, and enjoy the fruits of his labor.
Heck yeah.
So when it comes to
hold up. We got
sure.
Let's see. Angelo in the chat. My 2-start list for next week starts with Christian Scott and Jake Irvin. I know Matt's a huge Jake Irvin fan.
Yes.
He believes the breakout for sure.
Shit. I mean, he went 8 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, and like 8 strikeouts today against the Mets, which are the hottest offense in baseball. Granted, he had the benefit of an early start.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, he's doing fantastic. And Christian Scott, that dude's going to be legit for years to come. Unfortunately, those guys are pretty widely owned. And we just talked about Scott earlier in the week as a prospect stash. And then
he got
20 minutes later, it's like, yeah, he's coming up tomorrow. So
we talked about Brooks Lee. He got called up 30 hours later or something. So we're doing something right.
Yeah, appreciate you coming back by, Angelo.
Okay, let's see. What do we got here? John Kensky Noel or Lane Thomas. Need one more for outfielder this week. Probably depends on if home runs or steals needed, huh?
Yeah,
I guess
Lane Thomas isn't repeating the power numbers he had last year, but he's been swiping bases like a madman. And I'm really starting to become a fan of that Nationals team and just the way they play. It really seems like they're never out of a game.
Yeah, I like them too. They're real sneaky. They're very good at small ball. I love small ball. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and he did follow up, worried about Noel getting benched. That is an absolutely valid concern. Lane Thomas is going to be out there 5 of 6 games or 6 of 7 games, if not the entire week.
Good questions, guys.
So when it comes to streaming pitchers, you want to pick on the worst offenses, and that's what we're going to do here. Kyle, tell us how Guardians pitcher Ben Lively can shut down the Tigers next week.
Yeah, we like him for a stream on the 7th, I believe, Tuesday, versus the Tigers are at Comerica, I should say. And he's 60% owned right now, typically a little bit higher, but he is plus 7% in the last 24 hours. So he was a little bit lower before. He's been mostly a middling pitcher, through most of his career, but he joined, the pitcher's haven there in Cleveland, and he's been having a pretty decent season. Since June 15th, he is the 90th starting pitcher in fantasy on the season, 13 starts. He's 7-4 and 71 1/3 with 4 quality starts, an ERA of just over 3 and a 116 whip. FIP and XFIP are both a run and a quarter higher. So, he's had some luck. He's had some good defense helping him out as well. The Guardians are, a well-rounded team. Strikeout rates 21.3, that's below average. Walk rate is nice at 7.3, that is above average. Some bad, right? Gets hit pretty hard hit rate, average exit velo are both in the bottom 17% or worse. He rebounds a bit with an almost 8% barrel rate, but it's still below league average. And this season, he's given up a lot of fly balls, 16% more than league average. He's also allowed 10 home runs in those 71 innings. His home runs per 9 is 126. It's a bit higher than we'd like to see. He has a 6-pitch mix, but it's pretty much sinker and fastball heavy. And a bit surprising, a sinker pitcher with a ground ball rate that isn't better. He does allow higher than average amount of contact, whether it's in or, when he gets batters to chase out of the zone. But he's allowed more than 3 earned runs just once, and then it was just 4 earned runs, so not a bunch more. He's lasted at least 5 innings in 9 of his 13 starts, and I think his ability to, he maintains this decent K with a, K per 9 of right around 7.7 and a solid K to walk ratio of 14%. That's league average. I think that adds to his fantasy appeal. The run support in Cleveland is fucking fabulous. They're 5th in runs on the season. It's at Detroit. Comerica is very much a pitcher's park. The Tigers, as Matt mentioned at the top of the segment, not very good on the season. In the last 15 days, they're 28th in batting average, 26th in OPS, 21st in runs scored, 29th in walks. They don't strike out much, but it's a great streaming option for somebody that's dual eligible like Lively. You could plug him in a relief spot, get 2 starts or get an extra nice start. Heck yeah. All right. One more streaming option for today's episode. This Oriole pitcher returned for the first time to his first start since returning from the IL and just dazzled. Straight up dazzled in his outing yesterday, striking out 8 in 5 innings pitch and collecting a win. Matt, how can Dean Kremer help the fantasy community next week?
Well, he can help us out a lot, actually. So he's got to start against the Cubs, and the Cubs have really been struggling the past couple
Very
weeks.
bad. Yeah.
They're bottom 4 in runs and home runs. They've got the second most strikeouts, and they've got a bottom 5 team OPS over the last 15 days. And as you mentioned, he missed about 6 weeks due to injury, but come back yesterday and looked awesome, striking out 8 Mariners, which, considering how much they're striking out this year, I don't necessarily know I'd call that an accomplishment, but we'll take it, right? On the season, he's 4-4 with an ERA just under 4. His expected ERA is about a 1.5 higher, and his xFIP is actually a little bit lower than his ERA. So an interesting little conundrum there.
Yes.
He's got a whip just under 1.1, struck out 57, walked 20. He has allowed 10 home runs and 55 innings pitched. And that's the big thing that jumps out to me immediately is the home runs. They're definitely high, and that's kind of plagued him the past couple of years. We want to be under 1 home run per 9, and this dude is over 1.6. So that's, not great. The strikeouts look good this season, though. He's sitting at a 25.2% rate, striking out over a batter per inning. And he's doing that with a slightly lower than average swinging strike rate and just an average whiff rate. But this dude gets a ton of called strikes. The walk rate is a little higher than average at 8.8, and he's walking over 3 batters per 9 when we want to be under 2. I think these are going to come down, though, as the season goes on. He's posted well below average walk rates each of the past 2 years. And he's, being out so long, you're going to have some rust, and you have early season rust as well. Taking a look at his overall contact numbers, he allows contact a little more than the average pitcher, but it's not bad at 78.3%. His zone contact rate is pretty much average, too. And the quality contact is pretty good. Exit velocities in the top third of the league, hard hit rate in the top half. Barrel rate is straight ass, though, at 12.8%, and we'll just call that like small sample size noise. Dude is very much a fly ball pitcher. He's got a fly ball rate at 43%. Does carry a ground ball rate just under 41 as well, and he's doing a good job of limiting his line drives with just a 16.1% rate there. He's actually got 2 starts next week, with the second start being against the Yankees at home, but I don't necessarily know I want to run him out there for that one, just considering, he's just coming back from injury, and the start against Seattle was pretty good. And, Baltimore is playing more like a pitcher's park now. But if I'm looking for just a cherry matchup to run somebody out there in, it's Dean Kremer against the Cubs. I don't want to take a chance at him having, a negative point output in points leagues or him just blowing up your weekly ERA. If you have to do it, I understand. If you're just going to say, screw it, I need the innings, and I'll deal with whatever happens. And who hasn't said that to themselves a time or two before? Screw it, I'll just deal with whatever happens.
Right.
But still, he's a good streaming option. I think he's probably worth holding on to. He's not somebody I'm going to run out there every single start. I'm going to play the matchups with him, but outside of the top, maybe 5 or 6 offenses, I'm going to run him out there with confidence. And right now he's owned in just a quarter of leagues.
That's going to go up.
Yes, that is going to rise, especially considering what he did yesterday. And if he gives a similar effort against the Cubs, I wouldn't be surprised if this time next week he's owned in half of leagues or more.
Yeah, for sure. And, even with the Cubs struggling and not scoring a bunch of runs, Baltimore's offense is top notch. They're awesome. So a good chance to get a win for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely is. This has been fun. A little bit shorter episode today, just, because of the holiday and everything. And to all you guys watching, do want to let you know that, like, hey, don't blow your fingers off or something like that today. Be safe.
I was just going to.
Because that is not a legit excuse to miss Tuesday's episode.
No.
Or Sunday. What do we got going on Sunday, Kyle?
Sunday, yeah. Check out the Stone Down Sports Fantasy Football channel there on the screen. We got a live stream Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about several sleeper candidates. Yeah, with ADPs around 100 or more. Help you out. We'll be there live. You stole my thunder about. I was going to say, don't Jason Pierre-Paul yourself today, and my outro's all screwed now. So
sorry about that. It
all
reminds me when I was a kid, we'd go up north for the holiday and everything, and I don't know, like 5 years old, something like that. Grandpa would just hand me like a package of fireworks, a lit cigarette, and a half-empty beer bottle, and just send me on my way.
Yeah, good. More simpler times in the 1980s.
90s. I'm only 28.
Yeah, right. So don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. Hit that notification bell. I mentioned the Fantasy Football Live this Sunday. The 2-start rankings available at stonedownsportspodcast.com for next week. Available if you want to just listen to us and not look at our ugly mugs on Spotify and Apple. Otherwise, again, happy Independence Day, 4th of July, everyone. If you celebrate, have a great day. Stay stoned.
See you, folks.